So you get to play sort of like an archetypal sort of role in this, the doubting veteran cop.
Yeah.
Is that something that comes relatively easy for you?
Yeah, I mean, my dad was a New York City cop. I got 5 first cousins who were cops. 3 of my childhood friends became New York City cops. So I grew up immersed in cop culture. So anytime I pick up a script and first I see, all right, exterior New York City streets, I'm like, all right, I hope there's a good part in here for me because I love to work at home.
Yeah.
And then, I knew I was looking at the part of Detective Jack Doherty, and you're right, he is sort of the archetypical hard-nosed, pain in the ass, there to break balls, seasoned detective. But I think the thing that was interesting was that, when we showed up on set, Elizabeth and I talked, and we didn't want it to just be that guy. So it was like, well, what else can we do here to just add some depth or some nuance to what's going on, and came up with this notion that these two maybe had a relationship, or at least a night together years ago. And that's also at work as to why he's, putting the screws to her. But also it might help explain why when he turns, you see that he really does care about her and that there really is a connection, and that they had some history. So that was nice. And, the producers and the director let Elizabeth and I play a little bit and improvise, and we were able to find some humor as opposed to it just being, as you said, that guy that's just there to be an obstacle to the hero achieving her goal.
Yeah.
And they ended up writing a couple more scenes for our characters, so kind of fleshed it out a little bit more.
You, of course, are a prolific filmmaker. You made a lot of films. You're working with a first-time director. What is that experience like for you?
For me, when I show up on someone's set, I really am completely respectful and would never even think to make any kind of a suggestion. I mean, my first acting gig was in Private Ryan. I knew showing up on that set, I was not going to be telling Mr. Spielberg where I thought he should put the camera.
Yeah.
And I just kind of have adopted that as my approach when working with filmmakers. If anything, I kind of watch them to see if there's anything that I might learn. So on this film, Asghar and Paul, the DP, I really just kind of sat back and watched, all right, how are you going to execute this sequence where we're actually out on a ledge in Midtown Manhattan? Where and how are they going to place the cameras? So that's sort of more what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And periodically you'll get a filmmaker who might say, hey, what do you think we should do with this scene? But very rarely does that happen.
Then the movie's in trouble.
Yeah. Well, not necessarily. You'll work with filmmakers who there's a more, a collaborative atmosphere on set. They're asking everybody suggestions, not just about the camera, but hey, we need a better line of dialogue for the end of the scene. Anybody have an idea? And a sound man will say, oh, what if he said this? Like, that's usually on an indie film, quite honestly, which is probably why I tend to gravitate towards those productions.
Yeah, I mean, your most recent movie, $9,000.
Yeah.
And it's coming out, what, in a week?
It came out on the 26th of December on VOD. Tuesday, it gets its big iTunes push, and then theatrical starts in Chicago on the 13th.
And what's interesting to me about that film is you shot it over several months.
Yeah.
Right? But it was 12 days of shooting?
12 days of shooting over the course of 4 months. I actually shot about 2 days before shooting Man on a Ledge. Then while working on this, worked on the screenplay, met an actor on Man on the Ledge that I really dug, wrote a part for him in Newlyweds, shot some more, acted in Friends with Kids, and then finished the shooting of Newlyweds. And the thing that, it's sort of a nutty approach, but the thing that, and sort of stumbled on that approach was, you now get to, let's say, shoot 3 or 4 scenes over the course of 2 days. And unlike a traditional production where it's a race to the finish, where every day it's just about making your day and there's the financier standing over your shoulder saying, hey man, we got to hurry up and make the day. We have 6 scenes, you take it back to the editing room, and you have 4 weeks to sit with those scenes. Mm-hmm. And you get to see what the actors are doing that you like or you don't like. I keep equating it to like a painter. you get to your first version of the painting. You sit in the studio for 4 weeks and just look at the canvas and decide, all right, what's the next color I want to add to this thing? And this new style of indie filmmaking, given that you can make these films on micro budgets with these great cameras, allows you a much longer shooting period, which I think gives you room to experiment and to play, which I think indie film should be about.